to administer to
and the board that not attempt to discipline or direct contractors. So I'm not sure how he's a contractor. Oh, good piece. Yeah. Oh, good piece. We're out.
And then it's gonna be last minute. We have to have release.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the King County Finance and Budget Committee meeting of Wednesday, August 23rd at 9:06. We have roll call, please.
Juby? Lewis?
Lewis here.
Sanchez?
Sanchez present.
Surges? Tepe?
Tepe here.
Leonard?
Leonard here.
Berman?
Berman here.
You have quorum.
We have a remote attendance request from Mr. Sturgis. I don't know, hopefully he's, I don't see him on now, but is that approval by the committee?
Yes.
Very good. We now have public comments for agenda items. And if your item that you want to speak about, oh, I'm sorry, we need approval of minutes first.
Leonard moves.
Lewis seconds.
Roll call, please.
Juby?
Ruby, aye.
Lewis?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Tepe?
Tepe, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes.
Okay.
All right, public comments and agenda items will be now. For the non-agenda items, will be at the end of the meeting. And to the best of my knowledge, the speakers are all on non-agenda items. If you disagree, let me know. All right, moving on. Treasury report, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The treasurer's report for July is on file. I'd ask our friend, I think it's Sean today is helping in Blair's place. If you can go to the fourth page, the chart. This is on the monthly interest income chart. Very good. Two more pages and you're there. Good. Next page. You've got it. Okay. Basically, bottom line is that projected for this year's budget was 1.788, the numbers to the far right of the screen. So call it $2 million. You know that in the process of getting here, I've promised and our team has promised $2 million more. So that's 4 million. What this chart indicates is that in June alone, we made $2 million of interest income. So rather than banks and the brokers having, so much of our money, the taxpayers have it. So we're on a good pace as far as the interest income. One of the things that's important to the county and to its taxpayers is the interest earned on the American Recovery Plan Act, or the ARPA money. I just wanted to thank Amy Raymer and Kathy Hopkinson, and also Suzanne Fonstock for sharing the material so that the Treasurer's Office could work on helping to calculate what that interest was. The chart over on the wall here is a number of the spreadsheets that were being used, and I think that these came out of some of the genius of Joe Onsick. But we went to Connie Kane in our office has spent about 3 weeks on this, given the information that was supplied by Finance Department, which again, I appreciate very much. There are some real basic questions to try to untangle the knot. It was a difficult calculation. hopefully it's going to be worth waiting for. The first question is, where did the money go? It came into our account and then where was it dispersed? Which money market account? There was a First American Bank and Illinois Fund. Which brokerage company was managing individual instruments that were used, like we had 3 or 4 commercial paper investments, then 8 to 10 T-bills that were purchased. All of these we've gone through to identify the QSIP or the identifying numbers on those instruments. We had 3 CDs. I think it was it was one at King County Teachers Credit Union and then 2 at First Security Bank. Then the question was, how long were those in? And that's where the spreadsheet was especially helpful in that there's a line on here, if anybody'd like to take a look, that's the detailed general ledger running balance of what's in the COVID account. Without that thread going through the fabric or through the cloth, I don't think that we could have put together, and it's not going to be a perfect calculation, but what we're doing in the Treasury Department is showing our work. Like when we used to do a math problem over at Holy Angels for Bill, the teacher would say, okay, show your work, and we're going to show our work. So if we've made an assumption that is not like a consensus, good judgment, we can make any adjustments. So it's how long in those, they were bought and then they were redeemed. Then you would think that it'd be easy to figure out what the interest rate is. But a lot of the banks, and I don't think that it'd be too cynical to say that the less transparent some banks and brokerage companies are, the less the investor knows about what he or she has. And so untangling that and getting documentation, and then on top of once you got it, then it would change. So then naturally it results in a calculation of what the interest amount is by month. So we've made some assumptions, as I said, and so we're showing our work. The calculation is from May 19th, 21 through April 30th of 23. We still will have work in May, June, July, and August to do. We have that boiled down to a 1-pager. I'm sorry, it is kind of microscopic, but you see what Connie Kane has put her hands around the whole thing. And so, at least you have everything on 1 page so that when you review it and check it, you can check off, all in one place rather than trying to, this is very good because this is a lot of information, but the data has to be analyzed and brought down to the conclusions. We're in the range, the bottom line, we're in the range of approximately 1.5 million in interest on ARPA, maybe 1.6 million. But before I give a final answer, I want to make sure that we double check each month, each figure in each month. So, and you imagine about all of this, and I just credit to the current finance staff, and Joe Onsick used to do this stuff over a weekend. So, God love him, say a prayer for him. Also, another item is the juror pay on debit cards. I thought very good work done by Chief Judge Clint Hull, Andrea O'Brien, Jason in the office there, and also from our office, enthusiastic support by Carlos Mata. I was over there to see it launched on Monday morning, about 7:30, and it was very well received. They were very organized. So that has been launched, and we'll see how that goes. And I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Mr. Kepi?
Mr. Chair, as has happened in the past several months, I've been asking questions of the treasurer, which I feel have been unfulfilled. So this morning, I presented you with a list of those questions and a request that they be answered in writing by the middle of September. I don't think these questions are in any way unreasonable. I will have copies distributed to the entire county board, and I'll make them available to anybody else that wants them. But, you know, these are questions that I've been asking, and I feel that the answers are important. I feel that this needs to be public. I don't want to go into, you know, some meeting where it's not going to be in a public forum where it's not available to everybody. You know, we're talking about, you know, virtually almost $500 million of funds that are associated with that, and they need to feel secure that all of this has been done. I'm happy to see that this kind of detail is being done. But again, it doesn't answer my questions, and I'm presented them to you, and I'll give them to the rest of the board now. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Surges,
Yes, Mr. Surges.
I'm online. Could you be sure that a copy of that makes its way via email to me, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer, you know, all questions. I'll do my very best.
Are there any other questions, comments of Treasurer?
Mr. Chairman, Surges again.
Surges.
I'm sorry, last night at the cow, I had made a comment to Kathy, I believe, asking for some information on the interest on some of the accounts, primarily the ARP account. Politely, I don't want people to be duplicating efforts, and if Chris has those, I don't need Kathy to do it. You know what I mean? I just need one set of records. I don't, I want to make sure that I'm not causing additional work.
Well, I think the effort has been collaborative.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's not
Yeah, I
individual.
Appreciate that.
And it is difficult to come up with numbers of this nature when the monies are commingled in investment. So it does take time. It does take some lots of research.
Yeah. Dale, thanks so very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Well, Mr. Laws, you have the questions, so you can, I'm not going to read the questions today, but you can certainly answer them. And I think Mr. Seppi is looking for a September 15th date, if that's all right with you.
No problem at all. Many of these questions have already been answered, but I understand that, you know, I'm happy to put every answer in writing.
Very good, sir.
And, you know, after last month's meeting, you know, just on a personal note, after last month's meeting, you know, you work the rest of the day and you go home and you get asked, well, hey, Chris, how did the meeting go today? You know, when you get home. And where I come from, if we won the lottery, if we won $1 million a year, you know, or $1 million, there'd be applause, or there'd be somebody would say, "Atta girl, Chris, you know, nice going," or "Well done." And Sarah asked me, "Did anybody say, hey, that was really good," or "surprised and it's really good"? And I thought, well, no, not yet. And I think that we should be elated that a lot of the problems that we're going to face budget-wise, the bankers and brokers are going to be paying that bill rather than our taxpayers who are struggling to make ends meet. Anyway, so I just want to put a little check mark by the performance is actually really good. A year's worth of interest earned in 1 month. It's noteworthy.
Well, I think we're all excited about your report, but I'm not giving out any attaboys until the end of the year, okay?
The cash is in the bank. So I appreciate your comment. This is the wise you know, your wisdom comes from many years of doing many things well. And so once the cash is in the bank, the check is cleared, then, you know, it's in the bank.
Thank you. Any other questions of, yes?
Mr. Roth here, Mr. Lawson, on the month by month, you know, you mentioned June was up 2 million. Was that because of tax payments? We had a lot.
Yes, it was. Very interesting thing. It is a legitimate observation to say, well, Chris, this is all because of the Federal Reserve.
Right.
And I've acknowledged that before, and I've said, well, I'd rather be lucky than good.
Right.
Or at least give me credit for timing, good timing. But there's a little bit more to it. Two big pieces is that we have introduced the experts to help us. So, and they use a different standard. The standard before was the suitability standard, which means that as long as the investment met state statute, brokers and bankers could sell us anything that we would buy. For instance, the tax-free municipal bonds. We don't pay tax. That costs us $400,000 in 66 transactions, or cost all of us. And then the other thing that's very interesting is it does take meticulous attention to detail. One day I had a little time on my hands, and I thought, well, what might I use this afternoon, you know, how to use the time. And so I called our bankers, and one was JP Morgan Chase. They're one of the collector accounts, like you point out, Bill, where they collect the money and then send it to us. They hold it for a little while. During that time, we were being paid 25 basis points. So that's 0.25%. By asking, a very good account manager says, well, let me get back to you. I got to talk to my bosses. Came back with 2.75 interest. The difference in that was 400,000 of that $2 million that you're pointing out. So thank you very much for that question.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Trader. Finance Director, Kathy Hopkinson.
Hello? Yep. Just to follow up on the interest earned issue, it is a collaborative effort between finance and treasurers because we're the books, they're the bank. We have to allocate all of the interest earned. When they give us the interest earned information, we are the ones who have to allocate it across all the funds. And yes, that is a Joe Onzik spreadsheet. So, and yes, when Joe left, we are still catching up on all of this. So it's a work in progress, and we are working collaboratively with the treasurer's office. Before I get into the presentation, and for those of you that were here yesterday at the COW, it is the same presentation. I just wanted to give some highlights on what is happening in the finance department. Beside the budget process, one of the things that we're trying to finish up is the annual audits. This is my prop for today. This, of course, is our annual audit. It's required to be filed within 6 months of the fiscal year end, which would have been May. We have to file by August 31st. Otherwise, we could potentially face fines from the state of Illinois. We will get it done. I have Amy Raymer Holmes has done phenomenal work in helping get all these schedules together, and the two of us are working together to get this done by next Wednesday, the 30th, hopefully the day before it's due. The budget process, we sent out an email to all the committee chairs yesterday about the budget process. Because of the shortened time frame this year, since the budget process started late, we are asking all of the elected officials and the department heads to present their budgets to their home standing committees throughout the month of September. That's usually done earlier in the summer. As part of the email that we sent out yesterday, we're asking the departments, feel free to put put your PowerPoint presentation together as you're accustomed to doing so, but we're asking a couple key things. The way that we did the budget process this year, and also kudos to all the staff and all the departments, because not only did we start the budget process late, we've been asking them to do some extra work actually in providing the budget information to us. They usually just submit one budget. We're essentially asking them to prepare two sets. One budget is based, we're asking them to use their 2023 final budget, adopted budget numbers for a couple of key expense types, contractual services, commodities, and capital. And then keep to those amounts. And then if they want, if they have a supplemental request, that is considered a supplemental request. So when the committee members will be looking at all these budgets, they'll be looking at an original and then supplemental numbers. And then also within the personnel line item, we've got all the departments. The first set of budget numbers will include just current employees and 2024 contracted union rates where we know what the rate is. And then the second set of numbers will include vacant positions, new positions, and any new positions. So please take that under consideration as you're looking at all of the budget presentations throughout the month of September. And the goal is we need to have all of these budget presentations submitted to the executive committee that will meet on October 4th. So that would be the goal. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on that budget process at all? Okay. I don't think I have the clicker up here today. Again, because I went through this presentation yesterday, I'm going to try to go through it a little faster today. I think it was I think of like an hour yesterday. And if anybody wants, they can always rewatch yesterday's presentation on YouTube. So I'll just start, I think he's still getting the my clicker working, but I'll just start talking. Again, when, you know, any organization is looking at putting together their budget, looking at their finances, there's key things to consider. You want to look at the financial position of the organization. You want to ensure that your organization is stable. So how does the county do that? We need to provide services while balancing both our revenues and expenses. We set up fund balance reserves. We have a goal that we put in our policies that says we want to have 25% cash reserves in our general account of our general fund. And we have met that goal every year. And we need to consider our liabilities. We need to consider the external forces that are pushing on our organization. We have to respond to public needs. We have to respond to laws. For example, the state just put in place the new Safety Act law. We have to comply to that law, and it will require some changes within our organization and how we do things beginning in mid-September. And of course, the economic environment puts pressures, financial pressures on our budget. We have an oversight process. So how do we manage all of these external forces and ensure that we have a good financial position? We have sound budget practices. We have state statutes and county code that govern how we do, how we manage our budget process and how a budget is approved. We have county board review and approval. We have public comment. And then around this, of course, we have performance metrics. All of our departments are required as part of the budget process to report on their performance and how they're achieving their goals and objectives. And then my favorite slide, again, this is just a sort of a snapshot of And this could be any organization, you know, what are an organization's core services? What are the support functions, the resource management functions that help support those core services? What are the governing bodies overseeing those core services? On the left-hand side, what are the external forces impacting the core services that we provide? You know, how do we measure our performance? We're constantly looking to improve ourselves, put in place best practices, and we're assessing risks. So there's 2 slides in here that had most of the questions yesterday. This obviously is one of them. So our general fund, which is our largest fund, it has most of the salaries of most of the departments, but not all, but it has most of all of our large department salaries. I think is a good place to analyze financial information and where we have been and where we are going. And as we are still in the midst of putting together the budget with the departments, we still don't have all the 2024 numbers in. We probably won't for, I'm saying, probably at least another month. So these 2024 numbers are just an estimate. And the 2023 numbers are also an estimate, as we have several union contracts that are still out. So our general fund is composed of 9 separate accounts. The key account is called the general account. So it's the general account of the general fund. The general account is also commonly called the corporate account. So if you look back over the last 10, 11 years, what this graph shows, the columns represent our revenue sources and the line represents our expenses. So as you can see, property taxes have been flat for a long time. The county has not raised property taxes since I believe back to 2014 and probably perhaps longer than that. The tax collections that have come in that have increased are because since 2017, the county has been preparing the tax extension on new construction. So when there's new construction, building improvements, anything to existing structures, that tax is extended to those new structures and new construction, new buildings. So the county has not raised taxes in since at least 2014. So that's the lime green color there. It's been flat. The other taxes, which is the purple, as you can see, that has shown a significant increase, particularly since 2020. And the other taxes includes our sales taxes, which is our share of sales taxes that we receive from the state, our share of income taxes collected, our share of personal property replacement taxes. Those are the big ones. So the reason why other taxes have increased is because the cost of general merchandise items that we buy has increased. So, you know, something that cost $1, and let's say you had to pay 5% tax on it, you know, 5 cents. Now it's going to cost $2. You're paying 10 cents. So the actual sales tax revenue that's coming in across the state is greater. And so the share that we're receiving is greater. So that's why that number is growing. When I've been looking, trying to come up with a 2023 estimate, it seems like it's tapering off right now. But, you know, time will tell. Oop. Cash, lost the slide. So let's get back. The yellow, which is the third color from the bottom, is charges for services. So those are things like fees that we collect that a lot of the offices, when you go in and you request a document and you pay a fee, that's what that represents. The blue is reimbursements that we receive, and then fines. And so if you kind of look across the board, except for other taxes, and maybe a little bit in the reimbursements and charges for service area, our revenue streams have been pretty much the same over the years. But obviously expenses go up. We provide cost of living increases to our employees every year for both our non-union employees and then our union employees. And just the general cost of goods and services, buying everything the county needs to buy, commodities, contractual services. The cost of capital has certainly gone up. So as with the rest of the world. So the key points here, a couple key points that I want to point out. So in the 2023 budget, which we're in the midst of 2023 right now, and the county's fiscal year end is November 30th, the county budgeted in this general fund $123 million in expenses. They budgeted only $106 million in new revenues, and the county filled that gap by budgeting approximately $17 million by using its existing fund balance. My projections is will probably come in somewhere around 105, somewhere between 105 and 110 million in expenses. And our revenues will probably come in right at that same amount. So we're right at the point where our revenues and expenses are pretty close. And we will not have to dip into fund balance. Our 2022 budget, we budgeted 102 million in expenses, only 97 million in revenue. And we filled that gap with 4.8 million from our reserves. And we ended up 2022 with 95 million in expenses. So just again, just close to matching revenues and expenses with a slight surplus. What is in our general fund? There's always a lot of conversation about all these different funds that we have. And in fact, they are all part of our general fund. So the general fund is composed of 9 accounts. There was a 10th one. It's closed now. But you know, you often hear we're talking about the special reserve, the emergency reserve, the property tax freeze protection. These are all pieces of the general fund. The board has just over time set up separate accounts within the general fund to put savings in those funds. And the board typically, in terms of putting a budget together, will, as part of like a budgetary tool or a budgetary technique, indicate that any increases, let's say from a union contract, will be taken from one of these reserve accounts, the emergency reserve, property tax freeze protection. But in fact, these are all part of the general fund. So this is also very interesting. I think had a lot of comments yesterday. So our general fund is composed of these 9 accounts. And as you can see, since 2020, our general fund balance has increased significantly, pretty much stable over the years. So kind of let's just go through the components of the fund and the interesting things to understand about this presentation. So the blue is the general account portion of the general fund. And as you can see, it's flat over the years. Because as I said, at the end of the year, what the county has typically done, they've tried to maintain that same amount in the general account fund balance so that we have cash flow, so that we have, so that we can have good cash flow and good cash management. So at the end of the year, the county takes any excess and puts it into one of these other reserve type accounts, primarily either the property tax freeze protection fund, the emergency reserve, or the special reserve. So that's why that blue is flat across the board. So in 2020, the county started receiving the CARES Act money from the federal government. And at the The key thing to remember is that both the CARES Act money and the subsequent ARPA money that the county received from the federal government is a portion of that money was eligible to be used to reimburse salaries of county employees working in conditions that were considered eligible for reimbursement, such as sheriff correctional officers, because they're in a contained environment, et cetera, and they needed to take precautions. So salaries like that became eligible for reimbursement. So because we were able to use federal dollars to pay for our salaries, that created savings for the county. So in year 2020, the county put those savings in this, essentially the special reserve. And I also should point out, the savings doesn't mean that all of that reimbursement amounts resulted in savings, because the county did spend some of these reserves. Because as you can see, from 2020 to 2021, the county took out money from the special reserve and created a brand new account, the COVID payroll reimbursement account, which does not represent ARPA money. It does not represent CARES Act money. It's again, just savings that the county is setting aside from the federal money reimbursing our salaries. So the county fund balance has grown over the last couple of years. And if you want to go back to this slide, the key thing to remember is when you're putting together a budget, really the goal is to balance revenues and expenses, and not really to use your fund balance unless you have to, unless it's for an emergency. The county does have a fund balance that's approaching 100 million. It's 98 million at the end of 2022. The county has talked about using some of this additional fund balance for capital, long overdue capital improvements in various buildings across the county, et cetera. But typically, you know, governments don't dip into their fund balance to balance budgets. They do try to match their revenues and expenses. This is just a graph of the property tax levies that have been extended over the last number of years. And as you can see, the slight increase year over year is due to property tax extensions on new construction. This is, I call this sort of the heartbeat of our other taxes. So these are the key other taxes beside property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes. And as you can see, the sales tax is by far the single largest tax and has experienced the largest growth in terms of revenue that's coming in to our general fund. This is a chart of all of the departments and elected offices that are in the general fund, general account. And this is just the salary and wage line item. This does not include overtime, and this does not include any benefits or taxes such as Social Security and FICA taxes or IMRF. This is just wages. I'm presenting this slide for a couple of reasons. One, I think people are always interested in this sort of information to see the impact, because for any organization, especially an organization like ours, personnel is a large part of the budget. It's important to see the increases year over year. Obviously, some of these departments have union contracts, some are non-union, some are a mix. So those impact the year-to-year change. And it's important to consider that the percent increase, you need to look at both the dollar amount and the percent increase, because on some of our smaller departments, the hiring of one employee could be a huge percentage increase. The county has 15 collective bargaining units. Currently, we have 6 of them that are expired and are in negotiations. I have not included, typically the county does not include projected contract union rate salaries in preparing estimates because everyone is still in negotiations. That is a budgetary technique that could be changed in the future, but that is how historically how the county has done it. The one point to note, just because the offices are in negotiations right now, there are some offices that have step increases built into their contracts, and throughout 2023, even though the contract is expired, employees can still get step increases, but their overall rates will probably be renegotiated. There are 3 more contracts, large contracts, for circuit clerk and court services and public defender that are going to expire in a few months. And then the rest were recently negotiated or not expiring until next year, but these all impact our budget. And then capital funding options, because there's been a lot of discussion, I wanted to address this. There's been so much discussion on capital improvements and capital projects and how that can be funded. You know, the county has various options to fund capital efforts. There's property taxes, there's locally controlled tax revenues such as special revenue funds like our local motor fuel tax, which the county has not raised to the limit that it could raise the local option motor fuel tax. The RTA transportation sales tax, while the county can't change the overall rate, the county board does have the authority to decide how much of that tax goes to transportation department and how much goes to public safety departments. And that is that decision is reflected in the county financial policies, which you can find online under the finance department. The county has ARPA funds, which are available right now, which is obviously intriguing for everybody because it's federal money that is available now, although the clock is ticking on how that money can be used. And clearly the county would want to take advantage of those ARPA funds and then potentially other grants. And then those are the funding options, in terms of the revenue that you would use to pay for capital projects. The financing, you could do that through using some of your fund balance, or you could issue debt, which is just, you're issuing debt to get cash now and then paying it off over time. But of course, that would include interest. And then there is one more document that I wanted to just put up for just a presentation today. The county executive committee is the committee that is per county code that is charged with increasing the tax extension, the tax levy. It is not the county finance committee, but we intend to present this resolution at the county executive committee on September 6th. So I just wanted to start getting it out there for board members to see. The PTEL allows the county to, which is the property tax extension limitation law, allows the county to raise taxes, but the tax extension cannot exceed the lesser of 5% or CPI. The state of Illinois back in January of 2023, the state every year is the one who issues what the CPI rate is. So on January 12th, I believe, the state issued its letter that says that the CPI for 2023 is 5%. So the lower of 5% or CPI, they're both 5%. So in terms of, going back to the chart, balancing revenues and expenses, and as part of putting together our budget, I know in prior years, there has been recommendations from the finance department to the board to increase the property taxes to the extent of PTEL and currently our budget policy that we just put in place a couple months ago indicates that this vote of the executive committee on PTEL should take place in May of each year, so prior to the budget process. And the reasoning for that is this: it gives authorization to increase the property taxes as part of the budget process, but it is not a vote on the actual property tax increase itself. All that this resolution would be doing would just be the board authorizing the ability to extend. And then as part of the budget process, and you work through the budget process and you determine what your levy is, then you come up with a final determination. So this resolution that we're going to be presenting, the executive committee, is just to give authorization to go up to that rate, but not to actually levy that amount. And that's my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions, yes. Julie.
So under PTEL, a municipality is already authorized to go up to 5 or the lesser. What exactly is this doing then? If that's already, it's my understanding that a taxing body can already do that based on the PTEL law. Why do we need an authorization to let us do what the law tells us we can do?
We can go up to 5%, but the county board needs to vote on that.
But
as
you would
part of
have
our
to
budget
vote on
process.
it anytime you were doing your levy increase. Why do we need to vote on an authorization saying that we can then vote on taking the amount for the levy?
It was as part of our budget policy that we put in place.
But I don't understand why.
Because we felt that the county board should be the ones, since they're approving the budget and as part of good budget practices, that they should be authorizing.
But that's what they're doing when they determine whether they're going to take CPI or take the full levy under PTEL. They do that regardless when they do their levy vote. I don't understand what this extra layer is for.
I think just part of our good budget practices and documentation that the board is taking this vote.
They're already doing that.
Mr. Chairman, Shepro?
Mr. Shepro, please.
Yeah, I believe that the requirement exists because it's only a coincidence that the 5% CPI happens to equal the statutory amounts, and the process itself requires this preliminary but not binding finding. So I think Ms. Juby's point is well taken, but is really addressed perhaps to the General Assembly.
You know, I'm gonna have to look into this. Thank you.
History.
Yes.
Kathy, Roth here. Since it's the same, which one would we pick and does it matter?
And the thing of it is that this resolution would just authorize us to go up to the limit. But we wouldn't necessarily, depending upon how the budget falls out and how we're putting it all together. We don't know, honestly, we don't know if we need all of it, but it would authorize us to go up to that limit.
I think
Mr. Chairman, Shepro again.
Well, just a moment. I want Aaron Brady, from the state attorney's is online.
Hi there. Good morning. Thank you. If I could just, I think I can supply a little extra clarity that might answer the question. Ms. Juby, the resolution itself is something that the board, as Ms. Hopkinson mentioned, the board changed its budgeting policy over the summer, and this is one of the things that the board said it would do for itself each year to provide some budgeting direction to the finance department in preparing the draft budget. So this resolution is not required by state statute, but rather by county policy. If there are PTEL implications in the amount that is chosen, there will be a separate process later on. And you're right, Ms. Juby, the levy still will be approved later on. So as I say, it's my understanding that this merely gives direction in the draft budget preparation, which is to begin and will be coming forward the next several months.
Mr. Chairman Sturgis.
Yes, Mr. Sturgis.
Aaron, I think I heard what you just said, but I don't remember doing that. Could you just forward via email, what we said and when we said that? I would appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, it was in the.
Mr.
county. If you
Chairman
re-
Shepro again.
Yes, Mr. Shepro, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe, and we should check with Mr. Armstrong, I believe is the expert, is that the question about which do we pick is that the 5% CPI is permitted, but if you are going to add to that new growth, that would take the total increase over 5% and would then trigger the requirement of the truth in taxation hearing.
All right. Who wanted to speak? Oh, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sanchez here. I think this is a good idea simply because it reduces the workload for our finance staff. I remember last year, we asked them to prepare two budgets, one with an increase and one without. And I think that's an unnecessary step. This helps us get ahead of that. Question, do we know how much 5% would be?
It would probably bring in somewhere around 1.7, $1.8 million.
Okay, thank you.
That's just an estimate. Yeah. And if this is the budget policy that was just passed, if you recall, when Ralph Sarbaugh was here and he brought both the budget policy and the vacant position policy to the board, and the board approved the budget policy. This was included in that budget policy that the board document every year its decision on PTEL. And it actually says in May of each year, but obviously we got a late start this year.
Very good. Yes. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leonard here. Kathy, could you explain to me, when will the executive committee vote on this? Will it be next May then?
No, it'll be September 6th, so a couple of weeks away.
Before the county board meeting? And basically it's just to authorize the right to vote on whether or not we accept it as a county.
It's the
board.
right to go up to the limit, but not the actual levy amount. The levy amounts will be part of the budget, which you obviously, we're still working on the budget right now. So this is not to authorize any levy. It's just to authorize us to go up to that limit when putting together our budget.
And will that be defined then by that vote, what that limit will be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other?
Mr. Chair Gums.
Ms. Gump?
Thank you. I apologize. I'm not on the committee, but I just have one really quick question. If this resolution does not pass, if somebody could answer this, we still are authorized under the statute to do so. Is that accurate?
Shepro.
I am not sure.
I would think so.
Yes, Shepro.
Shepro, you have a comment?
Well, I want to double check, and I defer to Ms. Brady, but I believe the answer is yes, it is, as long as you have complied with any statutory hearing and notice requirements.
All right, State's Attorney's.
Yeah, ASA Stephen Ford. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say, I generally agree with Mr. Shepro. This, again, as has been said by Ms. Brady and Ms. Hopkinson, this is intended to comply with a requirement that was set forth in the county board's budget policy it adopted. So in that regard, to Ms. Gums's question, so long as the board takes appropriate action, this is just the board's policy it adopted. It's not a statutory requirement. So the board at any time, can either amend its budget policy or decide to take action, even if this resolution fails. But again, I just would reiterate that this resolution would be to comply with the budget policy that the board adopted in June. It's independent of any statutory requirements.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Kathy? Thank you very much. Next is our auditor's report. Ms. Wegman.
Good morning. My report is on file and I can address any questions that there may be.
Any questions of our auditor? We have a resolution approving July 2023 claims paid of $17,988,428.11. Do we have a motion to approve?
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez move.
Tempe seconds.
Tempe second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Burgess,
Sorry, yes.
Pepe,
Tempe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. That passes. All right, random, new business. Item A is a resolution authorizing a budget adjustment for desktop support analyst 2 and systems administrator lead for the information technology department from public safety sales tax of $79,509.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves,
Lewis seconds.
Lewis second. Discussion? Any questions? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Burgess,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Tempe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item B, a resolution authorizing the purchase of additional Laserfish licenses and a budget adjustment from the Riverboat Fund 390 of $95,000. We have a motion.
Tempe moves.
Happy moves,
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Tempe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item C. A resolution authorizing the extension of the office supply contract.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves,
Lewis seconds.
Lewis second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Tempe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item D, a resolution authorizing renewal of a contract for toner cartridges.
Tempe moves.
Deputy moves,
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez second, discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Dewey.
In the final paragraph, there's some language that needs to be removed, where it says, now therefore be it resolved that the King County Board Chairman is hereby authorized to execute a contract extension. The office Pell was determined they were not going to continue that, so that needs to be removed. So it just says, contract extension with the Treehouse Inc. for toner cartridges. The prior paragraph said that the county departments chose not to extend the contract with the office Pell. So it's just removing what was affirmed in a previous paragraph.
All right, everybody agree?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
should we put that in the form of a motion to amend this?
Well, I don't know, because I thought it was going to be handled when I
Yes.
do it. So yes, I make a
That's all.
motion. I make a motion to amend the final paragraph. Now therefore be resolved that the King County Board Chairman is hereby authorized to execute a contract extension with the Treehouse Inc. for toner cartridges for various departments.
I'll accept that as part of my original motion.
Can I second it?
Mr. Tepe and Ms. Juby. Discussion. Voting on amendment.
No, voting on the motion.
If it's accepted, Mr. Shepro, Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Yes.
If-
Mr.
yes, if Mr. Sanchez is the seconder, I believe accepts, the friendly amendment that Mr. Tepe has offered to his original motion, then there's no amendment to be voted on. The motion is amended as stated.
Sanchez accepts.
Very good. You agree, Mr. Sanchez? All right. So then our discussion continues, but we're discussing the motion. Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes, you bunch of smooth talking son of a guns.
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Hunter, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. Item E, a resolution authorizing a contract for Kane County Concrete Services of $200,000.
Leonard moves.
Under move,
Tepe seconds.
empty session discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes,
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. And F is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Whiteside County for juvenile detention services, $175 a day per minor.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves,
Tepe seconds.
every second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Sturgis, yes.
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item G is a resolution authorizing the replacement of the chillers at the Judicial Center for $2 million.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves,
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez seconds. Discussion,
Surgis,
Mr. Fonstock. Oh, Mr. Surges?
I don't know what a chiller is.
Sure.
Sounds important on a day like today, though.
It is. It is.
$1 million worth of
Uh,
ice.
Maybe Mr. Fonstock will include that in his comments here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Roger Fonstock with the Building Management Department, and I had provided a handout for a substitute resolution related to the chiller replacement. We were working with Kathy Hopkinson and purchasing regarding this resolution, and one of the things that they recommended that we add is the language for the Omnia Partners agreement with Johnson Controls for the equipment. We're going to use a joint purchasing agreement that Omnia advertises. The agreement is good through 2024. And that will be in cooperation with F.E. Moran, who was originally listed as our vendor doing the work. So the way this works basically is F.E. Moran is our contractor for services for heating, air conditioning, ventilation. And they will be using a joint purchasing agreement through Omnia with Johnson Controls to order the York chillers. The dollar amount and the line item from the administration committee has not changed. The amount is not to exceed $2 million. And this was just to clarify the language for using Omnia, which is a joint purchasing agreement that's allowed by the state and county code. Again, this is coming from Building Improvements Capital. It's a budgeted expense to replace the chillers at the Judicial Center. And to answer Mr. Surgis's question, the chillers are air-cooled air conditioning systems that would replace 2 400-ton York chillers at the Judicial Center that are in excess of 30 years old and in a state of condition that we don't believe it's worth repairing them or reconditioning them. We've had one of the chillers disassembled for the purpose of looking at rebuilding it, and the costs basically outweigh the value of trying to repair a 30-plus-year-old system. Plus, the other added benefit is that the modern chillers are high efficiency. They're much more energy efficient. They also provide variable speed and variable control, so we don't have to run 800 tons of chilling or no chilling. You can go anywhere in between, and we can step it down and use less electrical service. The other thing is that they're very serviceable, a lot easier to service than the big York chillers that we currently have, more serviceable by staff as well. So this is the substitute resolution that I handed out. Again, it's just adding the language for Omnia Partners. It's the same dollar amount that went through administration committee. And we're asking for a motion to replace the current resolution with this substitute resolution and seeking approval.
Leonard, so moves.
Leonard moves.
I believe
Sanchez,
if we just alter our motion in second to
I-
reflect
I-
this change.
Given the amount, Shepro, I would just recommend that we actually do move the substitute resolution as an amendment.
okay, we're just substituting this for the amendment that was resolution that was,
Deputy moves.
all right, that's the motion.
Sanchez seconds.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby?
Aye.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Burgess, yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes. So that changes our resolution G to the new resolution, or H, item H is a resolution
Chairman?
authorizing the expenditure
We
of
have
funds.
to- Wait,
We have to
Chairman?
vote
don't
on
we
the
have
main
to vote
motion.
on that?
You had to vote on as amended.
Yes. Yes.
A replacement resolution. Yeah, we have to vote on it.
So you,
I thought, all right. Then we will vote on the motion
As amended.
as amended, sir.
as replaced.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So moved.
Moved by Juby,
Leonard, second.
under second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby, aye.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Burgess, yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes.
All right, it is
Very
replaced.
good. Item H, a resolution authorizing expenditure of funds for technology products and services, $150,000.
Deputy moves.
Deputy moves,
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby, aye.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Burgess, yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes. Item I, a resolution ratifying emergency purchase affidavit to purchase a 2023 Ford Escape Active for building management. It's a carry van. It's $54,669.26.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez move.
Deputy second.
Deputy second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby, aye.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Burgess, yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes. Item J, a resolution, King County Rabbies registration fees for altered dogs and cats, $15 a year or $35 for 3 years. And for unaltered dogs and cats, $40 for 1 year and $90 for 3 years. Do we have a motion?
Deputy moves.
Sanchez seconds.
Discussion?
Surges discussion.
Yes, Surges.
For something like this, and this is probably not the appropriate place for discussion, but for something like this, is this just for the unincorporated areas of the county? Or does this supersede onto like all the municipalities?
Chair.
Deputy?
Mr. Surges, as was explained in the committee meeting about this is for the entire county.
Okay, when you say it like that, Vern, you almost make it sound like you're trying to make me sound stupid for asking the question, and I must have missed that. That's why I'm asking it to just make sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Okay, thank you.
anything. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to answer the question because I happened to be in that committee meeting.
Appreciate
Where
it.
that specific question, by the way, came up.
Got it.
So,
Surges, it was a very good question.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Just a quick question. I believe that there is a senior discount for this as well. Is that correct?
Oh, Mr. Tepe, are you aware of that?
I'm sorry, what?
A senior discount, sir.
Senior discount?
Yes, there is a senior discount,
Very good.
which is
For the
part.
dogs, the dog.
For the dog or the owner?
Yes.
Whoever pays it.
You get a,
Barks first, huh?
you get a free
All right.
box of biscuits if you're a senior.
Go ahead, roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby, aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Burgess,
Burgess, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item K, a resolution approving the county board personnel expense voucher for reimbursement request of $61.54.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez moves,
Pepe,
Pepe seconds, discussion, roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. I have no old business. Any old business need to come before us?
Mr. Chair, I ask for unanimous consent to replace reports on file.
Does everybody agree? Very good. We have unanimous consent. Reports will be placed on file. Committee chairman's comments? That's me, I guess. No comment. Executive session not necessary. Public comments for non-agenda items. We've waited this long. The first one I have is Mr. Brad Raschke. You're limited to 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, let me begin by recounting a tale told by the 19th century French economist Frederick Bastiat. Imagine a young boy breaking a shopkeeper's window. At first glance, many might consider this a blessing in disguise, thinking that the repairman will earn money to fix it and thus stimulate the economy. But what's often overlooked is the unseen cost. Had the window not been broken, that shopkeeper might have spent his money on a new pair of shoes or perhaps a coat for the coming winter. The money would have still circulated, but without any loss or destruction. Now apply that lesson to our current situation. And what we see looming on the horizon is a $100 million building project, a tangible structure rising from the ground. It's tempting to think of this as progress, but what remains unseen, hidden in the shadows of this grand endeavor, is the question. For the citizens of Kane County, that $100 million translates to meals that aren't on their tables, missed monthly car payments, or the forfeited speech therapy sessions for a child adversely affected by the lengthy COVID lockdowns. These are the real costs, the true burdens that our community bears when resources are allocated without full consideration. Libertarian principles teach us about the sanctity of individual choice and freedom. Every dollar taken from the pockets of our citizens is a dollar they cannot use as they see fit. It's a dollar taken from their dreams, aspirations, and immediate needs. By pursuing this building project, we are not merely constructing a structure, we are erecting barriers to individual freedoms. We are, in essence, telling our fellow Kane County citizens that the county board knows better than they do about how their money should be spent. Our government's primary role is to protect and serve, not to coerce its citizens into funding projects that might not align with their values, or more importantly, immediate needs. We must respect the right of our people to allocate their resources as they deem necessary without placing additional burdens on their shoulders. In conclusion, I implore the committee to reevaluate this $100 million project, look beyond the brick and mortar, peer into the unseen, consider the unmet needs of our community members, the sacrifices they're forced to make, and the freedoms they relinquish. It's not merely about a building, it's about upholding the principles of individual liberty and freedom. I'd ask in conclusion that you consider a tax rebate using the excess funds or a tax holiday using the ARPA funds and extra budgetary, the extra budget surpluses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Second is Kim Cyber.
I have nothing written down. I just want to say I would like you guys to try to be fiscally responsible as we do as homeowners. I mean, how many people can't eat 3 meals a day now because they can't afford it? So they eat less because they got to pay for gas. The prices have not gone up 3% or 13%. Some of the things are 100% more. I mean, we just got our homeowners insurance and went up $1,000. We've never had a claim our entire life. $1,000. So you got all these expenses. And I know when you're voting, it's not your money. So it's like easy. Oh yeah, that, this, that. No, We need to be less government, not more. Less is more for all of us. So how can we cut back on our property taxes and, so that we can spend money where it's needed on more important things? Could be braces for your child, something like that. But utilize what you have and do with less. I mean, we have to go, we don't turn on the air conditioner in the house unless it's over 90. Why? I got to look for ways. I pay all the bills. Where can I cut expenses, but still live like we want to live? So you have to do certain things like that, but it's like with government, you guys, well, no, we'll just get this, we'll get this. No, where can you cut back? Can somebody cut back on the electricity or the lights, or do we have to have them running all day? I mean, little teeny things all add up to be big things. So this $100 million, which seems like breadcrumbs to you guys, is enormous to us, enormous. So all I can ask you is your consideration for, your taxpayers. Do you want your tax bill going up and things? No, I'd like to see it go down because it's gone up every single year. So, and my husband and I, we're in our 70s, but we still have to work because we don't know how we could live on just Social Security and his retirement, because we wouldn't be able to do hardly anything, actually. So we'd like you to be fiscally responsible and look where you can cut back, not where you can spend more money.
Thank you. Next is Michelle Bettis.
Hi, Michelle Batag from St. Charles. Kind of the same piggyback statement. When I heard this, I was shocked by this even being on the table. I speak to so many people in this county, and they're basically freaking out about this upcoming payment for the second installment, wondering how they're going to make it. I don't know about you're listening to what anything around the globe or around our country, but the gas prices are going back up again. The cost of food, huge. The tax, like the insurance, every single thing has gone up. The back to school shopping was so low that all these companies are frantic about the costs and the sales for the upcoming holidays. People don't have the money. People have to cut somewhere. And when you're talking $100 million project or a $750,000 plan for a government center, it's mind-blowing to not be reading the room and looking around. You have to wonder if there's outside forces making this happen, or even a consideration at this point when you see the government or the union contracts that are probably going to be a requirement for this county, and bigger contractors that have to be used. It's a bad appearance that all of this is being put in place just in time for a project this huge. Another topic I want to say is commercial properties. They're probably going to shut us down again, and people aren't going to be coming to the offices again. Commercial properties, a dime on the dozen right now. It's literally values have decreased so much, and we're going to go and buy or purchase and build more commercial properties. I was at an event with Jamie Master regarding human trafficking. A lot of these local mayors are talking to the mayor of Chicago. That's a sanctuary city for illegals, and they're being overrun, and they're looking to relocate them in these areas. With human trafficking and with sex trafficking, we're going to have the state's attorney's office swamped. And she says, I don't have money to hire state's attorneys. I'm not competitive. I'm not offering a competitive wage. She needs more money. And I can go on and on. I'm just asking for consideration. We're all struggling, whether you're in a high salary income or you are in a low. Unless you're an elite, everyone is suffering in this economy. And I ask that you all take your constituents into consideration and think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Esposito.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I concur with what has been said up to this point. When I heard about the potential of $100 million new building, I question it because of the economy, the way things are. Another point that I'm concerned about is the new voting equipment that has been approved. For my own edification, if somebody could tell me what the process is that, because I've come to a few meetings here and things are voted on, but where does it all begin? Does it begin in some subcommittee someplace and then it comes to these different committees for approval? Where does the public have the opportunity to get in at the very beginning of the process? Can anybody tell me how that works? Or is there somebody I can talk to, teach me what way to go so that we could find out ahead of time? Because it seems as though many people are standing up and they're just complaining about things, but it's almost too late. Hopefully, in the case of the $100 million building, maybe it's not too late, okay? So is there anybody I can talk to? No?
Is that a question? Well, it's a representative government, and each of us are elected to represent those people in our districts.
Yes.
Therefore, your comments really could come to your representative that you've elected to represent you in government.
Okay.
So that's the person you should be talking to and requesting that, because we're here to represent you. And that's what we call it. That's why we call it representative government.
Okay, should go then to that person, and that person should be able to tell me where the process begins so that I should be able to know some of the beginning facts as to how we come up with $100 million potential building. Okay, all right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is Jonathan, is that Rippey? Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the committee's time this morning. And Chris, as a taxpayer and a concerned citizen, I'll say thank you. Reflecting on the possibility of the county board spending anywhere in the vicinity of $100 million for a new building, I think of several things. My first reaction is total shock. Is the board building a brand new football stadium? Perhaps a high-speed rail system from Aurora to Elgin, or maybe a parking garage like the one in the home of bloated spending Washington, D.C. that cost $120 million. Nope, none of those. What seems to be proposed is an administrative building to hold, well, more administrators. So in this case, the building is just the tip of the cash iceberg. You'll then need to fill that building with administrators that have salaries, benefits, pensions, and such. And of course, those employee costs will go up every year forever, long after this building is paid off. During my career as a financial advisor, my clients often came to me with similar yet not as grandiose ideas for things they thought they needed. My first question would be, why do you need this? In most cases, it turned out to be a want, not a need. Even though they would come up with justifications they thought made this want a need, they knew better, and so did I. In most cases, I helped them come to their senses, but not always. But when they spent the money that wasn't theirs, it belonged to their children and the families to help them build better lives, future generations suffered. But they wouldn't be around when the pain of this irresponsible pending came home to roost, so not their problem. So if there is $100 million lying around that needs to be spent, why not use it to help the people of Kane County, not just some contractors and a select few that spend it? How about a free clinic? Right now, Kane County offers no free medical care. Only nonprofits like Tri-City Health Partnerships do that. Tax relief, homeless life improvement and jobs programs, or assistance to educate people how to get out of debt and provide for their families an environment of 7+% inflation and job losses. Or better yet, why not ask the voters what they want to do with $100 million? My guess is they won't want to build an administrative albatross that benefits only a select group and not the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the last of those that have signed up to speak, is there someone else that would like? Yes, please.
Good morning. Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove. I was not planning to speak at all, Chairman, until you made the comment to this gentleman about the process. So thank you for sharing that. I live in Sugar Grove, and I did reach out to Bill Leonard, right? So the advice you gave this gentleman as a constituent living in Sugar Grove, your wise advice, I took and had a great conversation with my representative from my district. Here's why I decided to speak. While you were half right, and why I'm speaking to all of you, is while he may represent me in the COW or any of your other subcommittees that go up to the executive committee and then goes to the big committee, collectively, you all play a part in what we, the people in Kane County, expect and demand from our elected officials. So while I thank you for your wise counsel, and it is true I should reach out to my district representative, the fact of the matter is we, the people, come to these meetings. So all of you, regardless of what district we live in, Kane County collectively represents we, the people. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, motion for adjournment?
Sanchez.
Mr. Kenyon, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sanchez seconds.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?